Hello, dear listener. Have you ever dreamed of taking your first trip abroad, but felt a little nervous? I know that feeling very well, because I felt the same before my first trip outside my country. Stay with me till the end. You'll not only learn some useful English for travel, but you'll also feel more confident about using English anywhere in the world. I still remember that morning so clearly. It was 5 years ago, and I was at the airport, holding my small blue suitcase. My heart was beating fast. I was excited, but also scared. It was my first time traveling abroad, to Singapore. I had always wanted to see that beautiful modern city with its shining buildings and clean streets. But more than that, I wanted to test my English in real life. As I stood in the check-in line, I kept thinking, what if I say something wrong? What if they don't understand me? My hands were a little sweaty. When it was my turn, the airline staff smiled and said, "Good morning. May I see your passport, please?" That simple question made me freeze for 2 seconds. I knew what she said, but my mind went blank. Then I quickly smiled back and said, "Yes, of course." I handed her my passport and she said, "Thank you. Are you checking in any luggage?" I replied, "Yes, just this one bag." And she said, "Great. Your seat number is 18A. Have a nice flight." Her friendly tone made me relax a little. That was my first English conversation during the trip. You know, that moment taught me something important. You don't need perfect English to travel. You just need courage to speak. After check-in, I walked around the airport. Everything looked so big and modern. I saw people from different countries speaking many languages. But English was the bridge that connected everyone. At the immigration counter, the officer looked at my passport and asked, "Purpose of visit?" I said, "Tourism." He nodded and said, "How long will you stay?" "5 days," I replied. Then he smiled slightly and said, "Enjoy your stay." And just like that, I was ready to fly. Inside the airplane, I sat next to a man from Malaysia. He smiled and said, "Hi, is this your first time traveling abroad?" I said, "Yes, it is." He said, "Oh, you'll love Singapore. It's a great place." We talked a little during the flight. He spoke slowly and clearly, and I realized something. When people know you're not a native speaker, most of them try to help you. That's one of the best things about using English internationally. When the plane landed, I looked out the window and saw the bright city lights. It felt like entering a new world. At the airport, I had to go through immigration again. The officer asked, "Where will you be staying?" I answered, "At the Marina View Hotel." Then he asked, "Do you have a return ticket?" I said, "Yes, here it is," showing him the paper. He stamped my passport and said, "Welcome to Singapore." That word, welcome, felt so warm. I smiled widely. Once I left the airport, I took a taxi to my hotel. The driver was friendly and talkative. He asked, "First time in Singapore?" I said, "Yes, and it's beautiful already." He laughed and said, "Wait until you see the gardens by the bay." During the ride, I learned 2 very useful travel phrases. The first one was, "How much does it cost?" I used it when paying for the taxi. The second was, "Can you recommend a good place to eat?" And the driver happily told me about a local food court near my hotel. When I reached the hotel, I felt nervous again because I had to talk to the receptionist in English. She greeted me with a big smile and said, "Good evening. How can I help you?" I said, "I have a booking under the name Montezor." She typed something on the computer and said, "Yes, Mr. Montezor, may I see your passport, please?" After checking in, she handed me the key card and said, "Your room is on the 12th floor. The elevator is to your right." Everything went smoothly, and I started to feel proud of myself. Every small English conversation gave me more confidence. That night, I couldn't sleep early. I was too excited. I looked out the window and saw the city glowing. I thought, wow, English really opened this door for me. The next morning, I decided to explore the city. I visited the Merlion Park, the famous statue with a lion's head and fish body. I wanted to buy some souvenirs, so I asked the shopkeeper, "How much is this keychain?" She said, $3. I smiled and said, "Can I have two, please?" Simple phrases like, "How much is this?" "Can I have two, please?" and "Thank you very much" helped me communicate easily. Later that day, I got lost while looking for a bus stop. I felt a little nervous, but I decided to ask someone for help. I said, "Excuse me, can you tell me where the bus stop is?" A young woman pointed and said, "Just walk straight and turn left." I thanked her and found the bus stop easily. That's when I realized another important phrase. "Excuse me, can you help me, please?" It's one of the most useful sentences when you travel. Every day in Singapore became a small English adventure. Sometimes I made mistakes. For example, once I said, "I am boring," instead of "I am bored." The waiter smiled and said, "Oh, don't say you're boring. You mean you're bored, right?" We both laughed, and that moment helped me remember the difference forever. I met people from different countries, Japan, France, India, and all of us used English to talk. It didn't matter where we came from. English connected us all. One night, I joined a small city tour. The guide spoke with a clear accent and explained the history of the city. I tried to listen carefully and repeat some sentences quietly to practice my pronunciation. You can try that too. When you travel, repeat short sentences you hear. It helps your English sound more natural. By the third day, I wasn't afraid to speak anymore. I even started small conversations myself. At a cafe, I said to the barista, "Your coffee smells amazing." He smiled and said, "Thank you. Where are you from?" We talked for a few minutes and I felt confident, like I was truly part of the world. On my last day, I went to the airport with a happy heart. I had not only visited a new country, but also grown as a person. Traveling taught me something that no classroom ever could. English is not about perfection, it's about connection. So if you're learning English, remember this. When you travel, don't be afraid to speak. People are kinder than you think. Even if your grammar isn't perfect, your smile and confidence speak louder. Before I boarded my flight home, I whispered to myself, "I did it." That sentence, simple but powerful, filled me with pride. And when I came back home, I realized I had brought something much bigger than souvenirs. I brought courage. Courage to speak, to explore, to make mistakes, and to learn from them. So my friend, if you ever get a chance to travel abroad, take it. Use your English, even if it's not perfect. Say hello, ask for directions, order food, and smile. Every conversation is a step toward confidence. And here's a little tip for you. Before your next trip, practice these phrases. Where is the nearest bus stop? How much does it cost? Can you help me, please? I'd like to order this, please. Practice them out loud.
You can even repeat after me when you hear them in stories like this. Traveling will test your English, but it will also make you love it more. Because English is not just a language, it's a key that opens doors to new people, new experiences, and new parts of yourself. Remember, every word you speak with courage becomes a step closer to confidence. So, what about you? Have you ever dreamed of your first trip abroad? Where would you like to go? Wherever it is, I hope you go with an open heart and brave English words.